Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
Mike. Good, thank you. Good morning. Let me set the stage on this a little bit. At the end of the 19th century, there's quite a bit of a battle going on between two countries in Europe. A lot of suffering, a lot of agony. And one of the individuals from that country wrote this poem that became the national hymn, not the national anthem, but the national hymn of Ukraine. At that time, Russia was aggressively going after Ukraine. Sort of incidental that something like that's happening right today. Anyway, I'm going to read the national hymn, the prayer. And Tom, if you would start, please, the video. It's dark back there to Tom. Did we lose Tom? Okay, Tom. The national hymn of Ukraine. Incidentally, there's copies of that on the edges of your aisle where you're sitting. O Lord, great and almighty, protect our Ukraine. Shine on her your blessings of freedom and light. With the light of learning and knowledge, enlighten us, are your children. In pure love and everlasting, let us, O Lord, grow. We pray, O Almighty, protect our Ukraine. Grant our people all the kindness and grace. Bless us with freedom. Bless us with wisdom. Bless us with the world, O Lord. Good fortune forever and ever more. Tom, please. This is the U.S. Air Force Band singing the national hymn of Ukraine in the natural language of Ukraine.
Sing
Thank you very much for participating in this. For those of you who would like the music, I have copies of the score, or if anybody would like it. It's a beautiful piano piece. Thank you again.
Thank you, Phil. And now to lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Jay Yard.
Any step there.
You ever wondered what actors and actresses?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And I'd like to introduce two of our guests today. We have with us Ken Fogel, who's from the Chagrin Valley Rotary Club. He's the chairman of the Gift of Life program. And also joining us is Dale Smith, who is with the Mentor Rotary Club, and he is the district governor nominee, which means he'll be our district governor in 24-25. So welcome. It's good to have you with us. And to lead us in song, now that we have had, we had a practice last week, but today we're going to do it with words and everything, and Chris is going to lead us.
Okay, everyone, we need to stand. And all right, and last week, we sang God Bless America, in honor of Dick Pearsall. That was his go-to song. We were kind of pathetic. So, and we had no lyrics. We're going to give it another shot and channel that wonderful group that we just heard singing. Okay. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you. Much better.
Thank you, Chris. And now our president, Father Joe Boisel.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. I was remembering Dick Pearsall, where he would be, all right, build it. You remember that? And then, yeah, great job, Chris. Thank you so much for leading us in that song. It's good to be singing again, isn't it? Yes. During the beginning of the whole pandemic, we at my parish, we went through these different phases. And the first phase, of course, was everybody had to watch on television as I stood in front of a camera in the parish, in the church. And then the next one was, okay, we're going to open up and we're going to let people sit around the place, not close to one another with masks on, and we couldn't sing because, who knows? We're going to spray stuff with our singing. So, yeah, it's good. It feels like we're back to normal. Few of the announcements I have today. First of all, today is the last day for the collection for the Boys and Girls Club. If you had things and you forgot to bring them, I would say hunt down Terry and see what you can do. So maybe that's but today is the last day for that. As our sergeant told us, we have with us Ken Fogel and Dale Smith. Ken with the Gift of Life. And so today, following this meeting, there's going to be a short 10-minute kind of meeting out here in this dining area for those who are interested. Board members, first of all, if you can be there, please stay. Others who are interested to sort of be introduced and talk about Gift of Life and our approach this year to that as part of our fundraising events. Following that meeting, if you're in the beer garden group, and who would want to be in the beer garden club, right? So come and we have all kinds of samples. We don't really, but we could. It might happen sometime. But if you're part of that group, beer garden meeting following the meeting of Gift of Life this morning, same place. I have a sign-up sheet that's going to come around. One of the other things we need to do to get back to normal, we're still not all the way there. We need greeters. We've had greeters for years. I remember when I first became a Rotarian, one of the jobs I had to do to move from the red badge to the blue badge was to be a greeter. And then we had a rotation of those. And so there were persons who were, seasoned greeters who took, those of us who were novice greeters and helped us to learn the ropes. And so one of the things we want to get back to. So I'm going to sign up sheet, send it around. Just 1 month, you're a greeter. And so if you can sign up for that. I think that's all that I have. And so with that, I'm going to bring up David Basil, who's going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Joe. Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my privilege today to introduce our speaker, Shannon Speaks. The last name may be a little bit familiar, but she is not going to talk about history like her husband, Tom. Since the start of Shannon's career in healthcare in 1995, she has partnered with people and their families in a variety of settings. She had the privilege of working with older adults in nursing homes as they adjust to major life transitions, and worked in hospice care as individuals prepared for the end of life. It was a true joy for her to also teach and support students at Kent State in human development and family studies for 15 years. For a little over 5 years, she supported people living with cancer and their families in an outpatient cancer treatment center. Those valuable human connections have become a part of her as she brings lessons she has learned to her roles as social worker, certified mindfulness teacher, and ICF certified life coach. Today, Shannon will share her personal and professional insights with us and from her coaching practice at Nourish C&C LLC, where she gets to partner with caregivers of all kinds who are ready to discover peace, balance, and fulfillment. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to today's speaker, Shannon Speaks.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I appreciate that. And what a beautiful space. Wow. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, beautiful. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank you so much. Indeed, I think you've heard from my husband, Tom Speaks, on this very stage. Did he come here and talk about historical, interesting things? But I am here today to share with you about something called mindfulness. And I wonder, just by a show of hands, how many of you have heard the buzz of mindfulness? Okay, great. It's good to know. And I want to tell you first, before we get into what it is and how it might actually help you in your everyday life, I'd love to just tell you why it's so important to me. For me, mindfulness has given me access to something that might surprise you, but power. Believe it or not, mindfulness gives you access to power. The power I'm talking about, in case you have ever felt powerless ever in your life, but the power I'm talking about is the power that Viktor Frankl discussed when he talked about the space between a stimulus and a response. Have you ever heard that quote before by Viktor Frankl? So he is a psychologist, was a psychologist, I should say, and he is a survivor of the Holocaust and beautiful human. But what he would talk about is how between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. And in that space lies all the power and all the freedom. And so I really loved that 4-point, whatchamacallit, test. Thank you. 4-way test that you guys just did, because I really feel like that is a beautiful example of pausing and accessing the space between what may have just happened before the test and what happens after the test. You pause, and it seems like you take a moment to really reflect before you move on. So what a beautiful thing. I'm glad I got to learn that this morning. So next. And we'll go next again because I already said thank you, but I do want to say part of this presentation of bringing me here, everybody, is acknowledging the fact that these past few years have been, insert variety of words, okay? And at the very least, we can say they've been hard, really hard on many, many people. And so bringing me here is an opportunity for you who spend so much time pouring out into the cups of other people, serving, doing. And believe it or not, and it might feel really foreign to you, but this is an opportunity for you to actually receive. That's what this time is right here. It's a time for you to take a minute, pause some of the doing, and just receive what comes. So I hope that that's my greatest intention for you for this time, that you might receive. So I have index cards at the end of the aisles. You may see that. If you're willing, and if everyone has a writing utensil, this is a beautiful way to start any meeting. And I know officially already started, but what I'd like you to do, if you feel open to it, no pressure, is to write down 2 words that describe how you're feeling right now. How are you feeling right now? And if you could write them down, and then after you write them down, pass your index cards back to the end of the aisle, and I'm gonna take them. And I would like to share them so that although you all know who's in the room, it might help us know what else is in the room. So I don't know your handwriting. No one will know who said what. And I can tell you I've been doing this a lot. Most recently, I work at Summa Health. And so I've been doing this exact program with the very tired, very overwhelmed hospital workers, doctors and nurses and social workers and all across the board who are working tirelessly to support people in the hospital. And I do this very thing. And I have a feeling there will be some trends in what you write and even what they have written. So if you can pass them down, I will get those from you. It can 2 words. If you feel so compelled to do more, go for it. If only one comes, that's okay. There's no wrong answer. Thank you for that. Okay, so your first lesson in mindfulness is sometimes mindfulness is being with. And sometimes mindfulness is working with. So we're going to practice a couple things. But the first thing we're going to practice is being with. That is easy to say and not easy to do. But I'm going to read the cards so that we can be with each other and with how people are feeling. Okay. Now, I'm a social worker. I tend to want to jump right into action. So when I read some of the things, I want to jump right in and be like, okay, what are we going to do about this one? But this is just being with. Just being with. Okay. So here's what we have in the room. Just fine. In transition. Grateful. Grateful, peaceful. Hopeful. Tired, apprehensive. Very good. Great. Confident. Grateful. Love to others. Peaceful and happy. At ease. Relaxed, connected. Stressed, hopeful. Hurried, happy. Connected, energized. Stressed, angry. Grateful, tired. Puzzled, comfortable, and calm. So that's being with, just for a couple seconds even. Thank you for doing that. I will tell you that your answers were vastly different than the people out in the hospital settings. Also, this is a different environment and it's being recorded and broadcast. And you know that. So I don't know how that influences answers. I'm just saying. But thank you for being willing to participate in that. I do appreciate it. So next, you might wonder, how could mindfulness influence all the things you just said? Some people might think mindfulness is only to be used maybe when you're struggling. And I will say, when people answer things like tired, confused, overwhelmed, stressed, grieving, whatever the case may be, mindfulness can certainly play an important role in supporting people there. But you guys, mindfulness can play a beautiful role in even when you're feeling all these beautiful things that many of you just described. Okay, so we'll get into that too. Next. So here's my plan for the little bit of time I have left. What is my time frame, by the way? What time should I be watching? 20 minutes, okay. I'm going to define mindfulness for you so you can get an A+ on the test. I'm going to remind you about choice, and then we're going to do a practice together in this warm, cozy room. And I won't, people fall asleep. I won't be surprised. I'm going to talk about research, because although, how many of you, when you hear mindfulness, you think it's woo-woo? You know what I mean by woo-woo? Little woo-woo. How many, when you hear mindfulness, you're like, woo-woo? This is on the woo-woo side. Nobody? Okay. There is some woo-woo in there, but I'm not going to do the woo-woo today. This is all research-based, science-based information, by the way. And then we're going to do another practice called the stop practice that I hope you might find useful. But let me tell you, there are so many options of practices you could use. And then we'll have a closing practice. So that's the plan. Next. Okay. So if I was going to give you a test right now, and I said to you, okay, guys, pop quiz, what's mindfulness? If the only thing you said was mindfulness is just awareness, Shannon, that's what it is. It's awareness. I would say B- is what you get. But if you were going for the A, and I have a feeling Rotarians might be the type who want an A, you would say, oh, but it's not just awareness. It's actually awareness that comes from something. Well, what's the something? Paying attention on purpose in this present moment, non-judgmentally. Super easy to say, super hard to do. For example, now this morning is unlikely a good example of this, but have you ever driven somewhere, arrived, put your car in park, and thought, oh my God, I don't even remember driving here. Am I the only one? Yeah, all the time, right? So, I mean, this morning's different because of the snow and, you're like, oh, I better pay attention. But we tend to pay just enough attention sometimes that we get to where we're going, but we don't even remember the path there. So mindfulness helps us build the muscle of paying attention on purpose, actually on purpose. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who's actually listening on purpose? It's a gift. I'm like, is it my birthday or something? Wow, what a treasure for someone to actually be maybe looking at you and their phone isn't even around. What? That's a gift. Paying attention on purpose in this moment. Okay, so how many of you in the short time that you've been sitting in here have already time traveled to the past or to the future? I've done it even while I'm talking up here. We're really good time travelers. Have you ever, for example, the shower is an amazing place to time travel. Have you ever actually taken a shower and paid attention to the sound of the water? No, you're in a meeting. You brought your whole meeting into the shower with you. So paying attention on purpose in this moment, this one, well, it's hard to get to. It's hard to get to the present moment because there's so many distractions. So when we can practice mindfulness, it's almost like the button to this moment when you can really practice. So next, oh wait, I'm so sorry. I forgot to talk about non-judgmentally, which is the hardest one of all. Non-judgmentally, the truth is we're never not judging. And judging doesn't have to only mean, oh, this is so bad. Judging is even when you're like, oh, this is good. That's a judgment. We're always judging. But when you can practice the non-judgment, it really means when you can just notice the judge. Do you notice when you're judging? Or are you so enmeshed in it that you can't even see yourself or who you're talking to? The judgment clouds everything. So see what I mean? It's not easy stuff and it takes a lot of practice. So that's what we're going to do. Next. So as a great example, because when you go to a restaurant, you usually don't just eat the menu, right? You want to eat the food. So my hope in sharing a practice with you is so you're not just eating the menu. I'd love for you to actually step into a mindful practice at your own choice. So in case you're the type who is thinking, this feels uncomfortable, this is not my jam, that's okay. You can take a nap. It's so warm in here and you're on those nice couches. But if you're interested in practicing a little bit, this is a great time to do it, especially when pressure's low. That's that's a great time to practice, because then when pressure's higher, if you're well practiced, you can do it better then. Okay, so let's do a grounding practice, everybody. So here's how it looks. When you practice mindfulness on purpose in the moment, the first thing we're going to do is just bring attention to your physical body. So notice how you're sitting and put yourself in a position right now that feels comfortable and alert, both. So if you've just realized, oh my gosh, I've been holding myself in such a way that's actually super uncomfortable, change it. Put yourself in a comfortable seated spot here. And a lot of times mindfulness teachers like to say, feel like you're sitting with dignity. So hold yourself with dignity and ease, okay? And next, we're just going to bring awareness to the fact that you're breathing. You've been breathing on your own for a long time without even maybe noticing. But right now in this moment, you're going to go, wait a minute, am I breathing? Huh, yeah, I'm breathing. So call attention, just shine that light of awareness on the breath. And notice your own natural rhythm of breathing. What does it even look like for you? And at different times of the day or different circumstances, it can look different. I'm feeling kind of nervous. So for me, my breathing is way up here, kind of like, but when you're feeling particularly calm, you might access the belly and notice that you're breathing deeper. But in this moment, how does your body receive a breath? What changes in your body when you take a breath in? Do you notice maybe your lungs expand, your rib cage opens, maybe your shoulders go up? And then how do you notice your body exhaling? And how about the space you're in right now? Do you notice the chair or couch below you? Can you feel it? Can you feel it underneath you, behind you? You've been sitting there for a while now, and now all of a sudden you can feel it. Or even your feet on the floor. Everybody here has feet? Do you notice your feet on the floor? And you might even notice the clothes on your body. They've been here the whole time this morning, but now you can sense them. Can you feel the glasses on your face? Maybe even your watch on your wrist. The senses, oh, hey, I love that. That's a great noise, because tuning into what you hear. What's the soundscape here? What do you hear? And then even tuning into how you're feeling in this moment. Does it feel boring, uncomfortable, kind of weird? Or maybe it feels nourishing. Whatever the case may be, just noticing, just noticing. And so just a couple more breaths on purpose. And you know what they say? They say an audible exhale actually reduces stress, because you have to take that big inhale ahead of time. Oh, I'm going to do something risky. I would love for us all to all together have an audible exhale. Can we do it? Let's do a big ol' inhale and then a audible exhale. Ready? Go ahead. Thank you for that. Try it. If it was too uncomfortable in here, when you get back in your car, try it on for size and see what happens. They actually show research shows it actually helps you. So thanks for getting grounded. How did that feel? Does anybody have a comment? What did you notice? Yeah. Yeah, he said it feels like a prelude to a nap. Yes. That's okay. What's that? Uplifting it felt. Oh, beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
sometimes confusing for me to focus on my breathing. Because then I'm really focused on breathing. Like, you know, like I'm breathing and
Oh, like it almost changes. Like here's this thing that happens automatically, and now all of a sudden I'm focusing on it, and it changes it or something. I love that you said that. He said sometimes it feels like he's all of a sudden manipulating his breath as opposed to just breathing. But could there ever be a time in your life where you might need to manipulate your breath? Yes. Yes. Exactly. All of a sudden you drop right into the present moment. And if has anyone felt particularly nervous before or activated like oh my god, when you feel like that, that's a perfect invitation, like wow, maybe I should manipulate my breath a little bit and pull this thing down. And as a tip, when you can, if you ever feel like that activated, what you might want to try to do is just make the exhale longer than the inhale. You just might notice, okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then keep going until that exhale is longer, no matter even by half a second or longer than the inhale. And that's you regulating your whole system. All of a sudden, your body, who thought it needed to run from the saber-toothed tiger, you're saying, it's okay. I'm safe here. Even though this might have felt unsafe, I'm okay. So I appreciate your comments very much. Next. We did that, so go ahead next again. Okay, now that you've done it, I'd love to tell you the research behind it. So I don't know if you can read these. I doubt you can read these 3 pillars over here, but I have a bigger slide for each one in a minute. Dr. Dan Siegel has done beautiful research, and so many other people have too, on what it takes to have a meaningful, beneficial mindfulness practice. And what they have discovered is when your practice, whatever it might look like, is supported by these 3 pillars. Number 1, focused attention. Number 2, open awareness. And number 3, kind intentions. When you can have those 3 pillars supporting your practice, you're more likely to get all these beautiful benefits. Check them out. Number 1, your brain works better. Your brain actually functions better when you have this type of mindfulness practice. Number 2, your stress hormone, that thing that we were talking about when the cortisol is up and you accidentally sent the wrong email, or you, whatever your stressful life looks like, and your body reacts a certain way, that's it preparing to run. And so when you practice mindfulness, you can calm down some of those things. Your immunity is better. Who doesn't need a little more of that these days? Also, your cardiovascular. Can you believe this? Your heart health is better when you can practice mindfulness. Also, inflammation. It reduces inflammation, not just in the body, which we could use, but can you think about the inflammatory responses that people are having in life these days? Just reactionary. Have you ever heard of something called the window of tolerance? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Mind if I just digress for just a minute? Window of tolerance is like how wide this window is where you feel, okay, I'm like, honestly, this stack of index cards was really something else, that you're feeling peaceful and calm and thankful and all those things. What that tells me, if they're true, that your window of tolerance is very wide. And so that means when you're driving and someone cuts you off, that you might be in that place where you're like, oh, go ahead, buddy. It's okay. Pardon me to be in the way. That's when you know your tolerance is wide. If, however, that sets a flame and particular words come flying out or gestures, that will mean that your window of tolerance is down, down, down. And what we know is that COVID pulled that window down for many of us a great deal. So practicing mindfulness also opens that window wider. And that's also that space in between that I was talking about. And I do a terrible job pronouncing this one. Is anyone a physician in the room that studies genetics? Because it will also optimize your telomers. There's a special way to pronounce it, and I just haven't figured it out. But that has to do with aging. And believe it or not, when people practice mindfulness, well, let me say this first. Have you ever met someone who is a particular age and you would have thought they were 20 years older? Okay, just by looking at them. I'm not talking about like Keith Richards. I mean, we already know about that kind of life and how that adds to age. But just the average everyday person who's experienced such extreme life and difficulty and hardship in such a way that it has advanced their age. Well, when we practice mindfulness, it can change our actual aging body. Pretty cool, right? Those are some good benefits. Any surprises? You know, like, wow, I didn't know about that one. I was surprised with all of them. Okay, next. All right, I just want to tell you briefly about what focused attention is, because how many of you, when we did the grounding practice, were like, squirrel, squirrel, thinking about all the things you had to do. This chair's uncomfortable. I have to make that phone call. Totally normal. And so here's mindful practices help you build that muscle of focused attention so that every time you go squirrel, you go, I'm focusing on my breath. Squirrel. I'm focusing on this. And each time you bring it back, you're building that muscle. So that's where you bring in that non-judgment too. It's not like, oh, I'm doing a terrible job at mindfulness. You just say, I'm distracted. Noticing, that's all. Okay, next. Open awareness. Open awareness is, I would say if there's any area of these 3 pillars that's a little on the woo-woo, this is the one. But open awareness is really just widening the landscape. Widening the landscape. So in other words, for example, this tends to happen at night for people. Maybe I'm the only one again. But at night when you're getting ready to go to bed and then a thought comes in and you're like, oh, wait a minute, what? And then you fall down the rabbit hole of a thought. Am I the only one? So when a thought comes in and you can just think about it like a cloud, like, oh, okay, I'm just going to let that drift right on by. That opens the space up so that you're not so tangled up, so that the thought doesn't take over you as a person. So that's what open awareness is, and mindfulness can do that too. And then the third one is kind intentions. And so when we can have kind intentions, that means that we're employing curiosity and non-judgment and kindness. Hey, guess what? To ourselves. Doesn't that sound like a novel idea? So all the kindness that you're so willing to give to others on a regular basis, what if you could give that same kindness to yourself? And mindfulness can do that too. Okay, next. All right, I would love to do, and you can advance it one more slide, one more practice with everybody. And this is just called the STOP practice. And it's by Dr. Elijah Goldstein. And mindfulness teachers love acronyms. It's too much fun not to use. So this is super easy. This is such a great one to do in the moment. So you're going through life, you're doing your thing, and you can actually on the go practice a stop practice. So what it looks like is you might see the stop sign in your head and you might go, okay, S, stop. Literally that you stop whatever the thing is that you're in the process of doing. T is take a breath, even just one. You just stop, take a breath. O is observe. And you just decide to observe. Maybe you're going to observe, okay, how am I feeling right now? Or where's my head at right now? Whatever you choose to observe, you can pick. And then the P is then proceed. It reminds me of that 4-way test. Am I saying it right? Because again, this is one example of giving you a key to the power I was talking about. Your own power to not have an inflammatory response that you would otherwise regret. Your own power to calm in a face of adversity. Your own power to absorb the beauty wherever you are. Isn't that true too? Like you could have been in a moment that was so amazing with a grandchild or a friend, and you passed it. You drove there and you didn't realize until that moment was gone is when you parked your car. And you go, oh, I missed it. I missed the whole thing. And I can tell you, after working in long-term care, this place is so beautiful. I was like, boy, make sure I actually leave because I might start working here on the way out. I don't know. But I worked in long-term care. I've worked in hospice. I've been at the bedside with countless people as they die. Countless. I don't even know how many. And then most recently working in oncology with people who have cancer and their families. Sometimes you park the car yourself and you go, wow, I can't believe I missed this. Okay, here I am. Sometimes life parks you with a diagnosis, with a major thing. Has that ever happened? Where all of a sudden you got parked and then you woke up? So practicing mindfulness gives you access to the ride so that if life parks you, you've been paying attention along the way and you didn't miss out. I've been with so many people who feel like once the end is here, they missed out. So practicing mindfulness can give you that back. So I'd love to just for a hot second, how am I doing on time? Am I out of time? 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Okay. So even just for 2 minutes, even just for one, let's for 1 minute. If it's comfortable, you can close your eyes, but just let's pay attention to a breath again or two. Like, oh yeah, I'm still breathing. Thank goodness. By the way, there's a quote that says, if you're breathing, there's more right with you than there is wrong with you, no matter how much you think is wrong with you. That's by John Kabat-Zinn. So let's just picture a moment, say recently, where maybe your response wasn't what you wanted. We can call on that memory of a time where you didn't respond the way you hoped to. And if you had a do-over, you'd take it. And what might have happened if before you responded to the stimulus, if you stopped? The stimulus happens and you stop. Take a breath. Observe the moment for what it is. And then had proceeded to manage whatever the issue was. How might have things looked different for you? And so maybe just one more breath on purpose. I like to say take an in breath with possibility and an out breath where you just let go of what no longer serves you. That's a lovely ringtone. Yeah, that's a good cue. That's probably my cue for my time's up. But let's go to what's the next slide. We did that. And then I think I'm to my thank you, which is I greatly appreciate your focused attention, your open awareness and kind intentions with hosting me today. And I hope this has been meaningful for you. Thank you, guys. I have a question. Yes. Any questions?
Thank you, Shannon, for coming in
welcome.
and sharing with us. It's fantastic. I've been doing some reading about this for a couple of years now myself. One of my sons went through a really difficult time in high school with suicidal ideation. And so this was part of his path to wellness as well. The thing about open awareness, this thought coming in and passing by,
Mhm.
I find that to be very challenging. Any sort of techniques that you know that help to avoid following that thought down the hole?
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, raise your hand if you also find it challenging. So look around. I'm just saying, you're among friends, like you said to me earlier. So the one tip I might have for that is that non-judgment. Because I think what tends to happen is when the judge comes, that can only like exacerbate the circumstance. And usually it's a story. Usually we get hooked in a story as opposed to what might be true. Have you ever heard of the phrase that even though something feels real, it may not be true? And so when we can drop in the moment and notice, oh my gosh, I am completely down a rabbit hole of madness here. And then kindness. Well, it makes sense. I've had a lot going on. Things have been really hard. Curiosity. Okay, oof. Well, I noticed it, and therefore there's a space between me and the thing. How might I widen this space a little bit? This feels too close. Couple breaths. Does that feel meaningful? Okay, good.
Shannon, I have an interesting experience I'd like to tell you and share with you. Last spring, I was invited to attend one of the final sessions of the service learning class in the Hudson High School.
Mhm.
There are about 100 kids in this group. So they asked for us to volunteer, and they picked 10 to meet with a group of 10 of them. So each one of us had a round table of 10 kids. And I was supposed to talk about a book that they had given me, and it didn't make any sense. So I started by asking them to introduce themselves to me, but give me one word that's in their mind. It sounds similar? Give me one word that's in your mind right now. Now, these are kids that are just transitioning, or at least anticipating transitioning, going from high school to college. And I was absolutely surprised at the one word that they came up with, very similar to what you're talking about, except they were very focused on things like anxiety, fear, pressure, concerned about what's going to happen in the future, loneliness. And I was struck by that because it seemed to be universal with all of the 9 out of the 10 kids came up with those kind of things. So I was really surprised that I wasn't surprised, but it was unusual that all of them had that same feeling of being pressured, which is normal, I told them, in that transition in your life when you go from high school to college. But I mentioned to them that the one thing that they have that can really help them is what they've been trained to do in service learning, which is service to others. And I encourage them as they go on into college, don't stop. Keep working on helping others. And in doing helping others, I've found that it takes the pressure off you and it helps on the transition. So I encourage them. I'd like to meet with them again sometime and see how their transition went. But they were so focused, there's so much pressure that I really felt sort of sorry for them. But they did have the strength of being able to serve others. And I thought they should carry that out. Thank you.
Wow, what a beautiful story. You know, first thing I notice about that is how you made space for them to show up. And that is beautiful. And that's super rare. And so thank you for doing that on their behalf, because you made a safe space for them to be honest on how they were feeling. And that's beautiful. And sometimes just being with what's actually there is all a person might need. Yeah. And witnessing, being a witness. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so I had knee replacement surgery, so moving is a little hard, but
Yeah.
we did the mindfulness. All the time was more aware of how much it hurt.
Really? Yes. Oh my gosh.
That wasn't my question, but.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, so I belong to a board that we often get people who come and make comments, sometimes feels like purposefully to try and get a negative reaction.
Mm.
And I'm wondering if you or if there's people who could maybe do a session with us to give us some of those tools.
Yes.
You maybe. Are you agreeing with this? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And that is, I wish that weren't so common. But it's definitely a thing. Mind if I talk about the first thing you said for a second?
Sure.
Okay. Well, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who brought mindfulness over here in the West and who put it in hospital systems to help people manage stress and pain. And people would say, why would I want to be more mindful of my aching back or my new knee? And what happened was when people can really pay attention to what's actually here, they might notice that sometimes more painful is the story attached to the thing than the actual thing. And so also when we can just be with the pain, you can notice, okay, well, what is this pain? Where is it exactly? And what might I do about it? As opposed to doing nothing and feeling grouchy about it. So I'm just saying that there are beautiful, actually, the program is called MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And I've been a student of that myself, and it's remarkable. So I hope that helps with your knee.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you. You may not have the answer to this question, but there are a number of mindfulness apps out there.
Yes.
Do you have any that some of them you pay for, some of them are free? Do you have any that you have come across that might be helpful or that you like best?
Yeah, thank you for that question. There are so many, it's so available. The Calm app, I have myself, and I enjoy that a great deal. I think the most important thing is to be open to trying a variety to see what works for you. Also, what's going to work at one time of the day might feel totally different at the end of the day. So being really willing to give yourself the space to try different things and see what's your style. For example, focusing on the breath for some people makes them feel more anxious. I don't know if anyone in here experienced that, but not everybody likes to use the breath as an anchor. Some people would rather use their actual physical body and feel their feet on the floor and not focus on the breath. So it's really important to find your way. And so my encouragement is to just try and stay curious and see what works. Mm-hmm.
When you took the first survey, one of the things you said initially was that you thought the results might kind of mirror what you were seeing with your hospital people.
My hypothesis was proven
As
wrong.
a former healthcare worker, I can tell you that much of our work is based on science, and that we're finding the aggressiveness of some of our patients who don't believe in science is actually rather off-putting. It's hard to help people who don't want to be helped. And the pressures that the healthcare workers are undergoing is very, very significant. And the availability of services is also very, very limited.
Yep.
My brother had a cardiac incident on December 28th, and a cardiac care bed was not available in the entire state of Nebraska at that time.
Wow.
So that's a frustration for the healthcare workers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So would you address that just briefly? I'm worried about our system. I think it's
I'm worried
not far
too.
from collapse.
I'm worried too. I share that worry with you. And I'm so surrounded by people doing this work that I have to admit, I thought, boy, I bet other people in here are also tired and overwhelmed and really stressed. And you guys did not answer that way at all, which I'm so pleased. Hooray. But indeed, the staff, I did those index cards, my stack of index cards from this here is about this high of how many people. And okay, one bit of encouragement is that even though many times they say stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, their other word is also often grateful and happy. And what I'm hoping is that people can know that they are big enough to hold both. You can be overwhelmed and super stretched and grateful at the same time if you make the space for it, if you have access to support and help for it. And at SUMA anyway, I can say as a social worker there, we're doing everything we can to support the staff in this way. And that's exactly what I'm doing. But I'm with you on the worry. Mhm. 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 Mm. Mm. Yes, the wisdom. Yes. That's beautiful. Yeah, the wisdom. If I don't know if all of you heard, but he said that the wisdom that he has come to now has shown him how the responses he had 25 years ago were less than helpful, and you've learned from that. So that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shannon, for her presentation.
Thanks, everybody.
1 second. Can I put you to work? We have a Rotobuck raffle. The payout today is a whopping $7, but the jackpot 320. So Shannon, if you would pick a winner from there, just pull us a ticket out and then read us the number.
Okay, the number is 681250. Who's our winner? 681250.
At arms.
Yeah, 50.